After considering the gospel, which is just such an amazing picture, and even the bridge itself is a picture. If you wanted to draw it out and you just wanted to kind of use stamp pads around it, that is totally fine. But I like to take it and I like to take one aspect of it and just chew on it, because there was a lot that we were just talking about. And I want to chew on that and really soak it in. And what's on my heart right now is that idea that Jesus died so I would never have to be shut out from the presence of the Lord. And that, when I just really, it's like, it's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to wrap your brain around it. Now, I'll tell you right now, we're getting ready to move. My husband's going to be leaving for Florida before me. And it's going to be kind of a hard thing to think of parting with him, because I kind of like that guy. And it's hard to sit there and to realize, okay, we're going to be apart for a while until the house totally sells and we're closed on, and then I get to go and join him. But I'm going to tell you something. What the Lord brought to mind this morning that was amazing was in Isaiah 54, when it said, your maker is your husband. And he reminded me, I will never leave you or forsake you. And I can't begin to tell you the comfort that flooded my heart as I thought about that. And I thought, okay, God, Jim, when he's gone, you are going to protect and provide for me directly. And I'm so thankful for that. So that idea of being shut out from the presence of the Lord, I couldn't even imagine not having his presence with me as I'm going through life in this broken, in this fallen world. And yet the reality that I shut him out sometimes. I shut him out when I get an attitude because I don't like the way he's writing my story, or when I'm like, I am not forgiving her for what she did. Right? And those kinds of things. It's like I'm pushing him out, and I'm like, I don't want you. I don't want your way. I want to do things my way. I'm going to live my way. Go away. But he's there, and he's knocking, and he's longing for intimacy with me, even though I can be such a mess at times and outright disobedient in the choices that I make. So that means a lot to me. So I wanted to remember this, because you know what? When I'm moving, I'm kind of one of those people who I grew up like in the same house. I would like to just get settled, stay in the same place, be a happy camper. But no, in 28 years of marriage, we've moved 14 times, and that does not count summer training program where we'll move for a summer and come back. We've had 14 complete moves from one place to another. And that's just part of my journey, part of what God's doing to make me dependent on him. And you would think after all this time I'd have this down, but I don't. And there's a lot of emotions that can come and can go. Some days are better than others. It depends on when you're catching me and how much I've been running to the Lord to get his perspective, his strength, and like this morning, to hear his truth. And so I wanted to create a picture that will help preach that part of the gospel to myself and remind me that Jesus, how much he paid so that I would never have to be shut out from his presence, but can live life with him. And that would motivate me not to do that. So, are you ready for this? I am going to have some fun here. And what I'm going to do is I am starting out just with a blank page. And one of the things I love stamp pads, because there is so much that you can do with a stamp pad to actually texture or weather or age a page that just puts a lot of character onto it. Now remember, note, this is a stamp pad, but I'm not stamping as if like putting a stamp on it and then going here. No, instead, I am just rubbing the stamp pad over the top of here. Now, sometimes I'll be a little more intentional in exactly how I rub it and exactly what I do. I know I'm going to want it to be a little bit darker around the outside, just as I'm going in here through this. And this is simply creating a background, but it is amazing how all of a sudden, in almost no time at all, you can end up with a really neat texture to your page. That may not look like much. It's a challenge to do it when I'm holding it up. But to sit here and to actually keep adding this on, plus it kind of frames the picture in as I'm doing it. Now, that's just step one of what I'm doing, because what I'm going to do next is one of my new favorite things, and it uses tea bags. So what I do is I take the tea bags, I pop them out, I dump the tea out of them, and then basically what I end up with, it can be like this, or I have more of a fancier one, which is kind of satiny. These make incredible textured background for what you're doing. And what I'll use is Mod Podge. Now again, this is my homemade Mod Podge, which is made with 3/4 Elmer's glue to 1/4 part of water, just mixed together. And I am going to have fun using this. I'm going to try not to get it everywhere as I show it to you. And I'm going to first start out applying Mod Podge to the entire page, because this is just creating, again, I'm getting it all over. Okay, this I should back up, and one thing that I should say to you, when you're going to use Mod Podge, something that can really, really help is wax paper. I always seem to be a day late and a dollar short on these things. And if you slide the wax paper in, what it will keep from happening is it will keep your paper from sticking to all of the pages underneath. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to apply this Mod Podge right directly on top of my entire page. Now, as soon as I do that, what I can do is I'm going to take these, I'm just going to start applying them right on top and then patting them down. You don't have to pat them down that much. You can do them all different ways as you're moving along. But what I kind of would like to show is just kind of to give this idea that I am creating, there's this barrier right here. All right, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to actually take and tear a little bit of this one tea bag back. Now you can layer them on top of each other. I just did this with my art journal class this past week, so I'm a little low on my tea bags. And then I'm going to add this silk one right here in the middle. So you can see my page, my entire page is covered with the tea bag. Then I'm going to take the Mod Podge, and I'm going to actually be Mod Podging right over the top of all of this. And that helps just to put it all together. And you'll see, as I'm applying it on there, it just gives you even more wrinkles, and there's some really, really neat texture that you're getting to put in here. And you can even fold them over some if you want to do that. And it just gives it this neat, almost ethereal look to the background. But one thing I forgot. Behind my tea bags over here, I wanted to take and I wanted to draw out a picture of me having an attitude and then cut it out. I did it a little bit ahead of time, and you can see this is me in a Debbie funk. I am sitting there with my arms crossed, not a happy camper. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slide that right underneath one of my tea bags, because what I want you to see is here is me underneath. It's almost like I'm in hiding, and I'm putting the stuff right on top of it here. So see, here's me, and it's like I'm behind this veil having an attitude, sitting on my chair, not going to move. My mom loves to tell the story of when I was about 2 or 3 years old, and it must have been about 2, and my dad was overseas because he was in the Navy, so he was deployed. And one night, my mom, who has back problems, couldn't get me to go to bed for anything. So she had to go get the next door neighbor and have him come and cart me off to bed. I was sitting there on the ground with my arms crossed, with both of my legs crossed, and saying, nope, I'm not moving. The guy came over, and I wouldn't move, so he picked me up, my arms still crossed and my legs still crossed, carried me straight into my bed and just plopped me down on it, and I was staying in the exact same pose. Yes, I do have a little bit of a strong will. And so that's how I kind of drew myself, although I decided not to do the legs crossed since that might have really taxed my limited artistic abilities. So here I've got this picture right now, and what I can do, you see, I've got the tea bags, I've got the background, there's me, and I am completely sitting on my little chair, not moving, not a happy camper. Thankfully, that is not the end of the story. So I drew a picture of a door, just cut out a brown square, drew it on there, nothing fancy, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this door, and this is one of the neat things with the Mod Podge, when it's still wet, you can just lay things right on top of it, and they just stick together, because it's glue. Remember, it's just wet glue. That's all that Mod Podge is. So I've just stuck this door right there, and then what I'm going to do is I drew out a little picture. You can look closely. Not that great, but it's a picture of Jesus and the idea of the back of him as he's knocking and his hands down, and he's just kind of like, will you please let me in? And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my Mod Podge to apply that. You can use glue if you want. I'm going to put Mod Podge all over the top of the door. Get that right on there. And then I've got Jesus standing at the door. And you see him right here as he's knocking. And there I am, sporting my attitude. He's there faithfully knocking, longing to have fellowship with me, longing to help me get perspective, so longing to just walk with me through my journey. But I've got that door closed. One of the things I love, Tuesday morning is one of my favorite shops because you can get art journaling supplies for so cheap from them. The last time I went, they had these sheets, a whole pack of these sheets of pop-out letters. And so what I'm going to do, these are like the easiest way imaginable. See? There's an H. Much easier than cutting them all out yourself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on here. H. E. I'm going to get myself an R here and pop that baby out. And you can even save the little centerpieces as you pop them out. And you never know when they might come in handy for something else. Oh, I love art journaling because many times as I end up with extra things, it gives me a reason to create something new. And I'm just putting here, and then I'm going to do am. So I've got to do an A. Little baby center is a little bit hard. Put my A here. Am. Got my M. And I'm going to put my I right here. And you know how I just said, you know what? No. I'm going to do here. I am, and I love the way Mod Podge lets you pick things up and just totally reapply them. And then look at this. This is the center of my things. I'm going to cut one of them in half, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it as if I was doing 3 dots after, like we're not exactly certain how this story is going to end. Will Debbie get out of her own way, and will she get up and answer the door? Or will she not? Okay, here I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 of those. It keeps popping off and coming onto my hand. Let me see if I can get it on there. Like I said, sometimes the Mod Podge can get a little bit messy, but you know what's really cool? It's like Elmer's glue. That's why they use it with school kids. It's so easy. Yes, there we go. Clean up afterward. Now, so here's my thing. What I highly recommend is that you take another little bit of that and you go over your letters with the Mod Podge, and then it's amazing how they'll stick together. But here I did. I've got, here I am, and it's Jesus standing at the door, knocking, patiently waiting, longing to have fellowship with me because, and see, this is the crazy thing about this. Jesus is complete. He doesn't need me. He's not knocking at the door because he needs company. He is completely and totally doing this for my benefit because he loves me. Do you see what an incredible picture of his love this actually is? Oh, this is just blessing me. And so I have one more thing I'm going to do, but I didn't remember to bring it up. And I am going to take red and a red stamp pad, and I just run the stamp pad along the outside and around because I love to remember this picture of his love was only made possible by the blood that he shed on the cross. And I want to be able to appreciate that. When I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this picture of his love, does it ever motivate me to not stay here? But to realize, Deb, this is ridiculous. You're only making yourself miserable, not forgiving that person or not being willing to move forward with whatever God's laying on your heart, or even having an attitude and not trusting. He really does intend my good in what I'm doing. So I'm excited. I like my reminder that I'm doing. What picture will the Lord give you? Ask him. You don't have to do it all that I did, although I will say the tea bags are really cool. But you don't need to do that to provide texture or anything, but do whatever you want. Do what he lays on your heart to do and have fun being creative. Because remember, the goal isn't the final product. The goal is what happens inside of you, both as you're creating it with Jesus, but also when you go back to look at it and remember. Have fun.